The habit of regarding words as completely and adequately expressing all that can be found there comes from another habit of ours, which is, in the terminology of the Lankavatara, our wrong discrimination or interpretation of the aspect of existence which may be designated as individuation. When this aspect is well understood, so that we shall no more be misled by wrong interpretation, we are able to get into a state of self-realization. Individuation means to separate one object from another, and taking these separated particular objects for final substance, to cling to this notion and thereby to keep up the evil desires and passions burning all the time. According to this sutra, this wrong interpretation takes place in regard to several categories of thought and being, such as 1. Speech, 2. Describable objects of thought, 3. Appearances, 4. Material wealth, 5. Substance, 6. Causal relations, 7. Definite philosophical views, 8. Reasonings as to the existence of an ego, 9. Coming into existence, 10. Not coming into existence, 11. Dependence, and 12. Bondage and release. For Buddhists, there are no abstract problems of philosophy to be solved from a purely intellectual point of view. They are always tinged with religious sentiment. They have always some bearings on the most important practical question of life, which is how to get spiritual freedom. All the thinking carried on in this sutra, therefore, has always this question in view. Objects of thought are describable and therefore are determinable. But the content of the inner perception forming the central theme of the Lankavatara is not subject to this limitation, and if one gets a wrong idea here, there will be no salvation for him, as he takes a thing indescribable and inexpressible for a thing to be seen, to be touched, and to be possessed. Things describable have no permanency, and consequently no spiritual value, but we are liable to judge them wrongly and get firmly attached to them. We are in this respect like those who fancy watery appearances in the desert to be a real sheet of water. This faulty judgment may extend indefinitely over all appearances, and that the result will be ruinous goes without saying. Hence this warning. Adherents of the substance theory maintain that there are really such things outside the mind. Owing to this misjudgment, the way to self-realization is blocked. Errors of causal relation refer to the ideas of to be or sat, and not to be or asat, which are considered real inasmuch as they make it possible to establish causal relationship between things about us. The ideas of sat and asat are only relative and have no substantial existence besides being so named. Reasoning is considered with the notion of the ego. When this is thought to be a reality, our spiritual development stops short. The Lankavatara refuses to countenance the theory of ego substance, which may be regarded as a corollary to the general substance theory. The notion of, quote, coming into existence is related to that of causality. When certain causes and conditions are matured, people think something comes into actual existence and continues to exist until the causes and conditions cease to operate. The, quote, no birth view of things, on the contrary, argues that nothing has ever been brought into existence through causal relations, but that things are what they are prior to the operation of the law of causation. This is one of the characteristic views of the Lankavatara. Words and meaning, therefore, are to be separated, as the former generally fail to give us an exact idea of the object described within them. They are, of course, indicative, suggesting where to look for the meaning. Numerous indeed are close attachments a man makes to things and relations on account of a wrong understanding of their true nature and value, and owing to these mistaken attachments, he wraps himself like a silkworm in a cocoon, binding tight not only himself but others, imagining things where they are not, or not perceiving them where they are. Men are addicted to evil desires and passions. Let them learn to look into reality, for to do this is to break through the net of wrong judgment and false imagination, and to attain the inward perception which is emancipation.